Hey everyone, on our latest Trade to Black podcast, we are down in Miami Beach at the latest Benzinga conference and a lot going on, including recreational going live in New Jersey this week. As well, could we see safe banking pass at some point this year, this calendar year? Yes, it's true, and a lot of people are saying it will pass. All this and more in our latest Trade to Black podcast. All right, we are back in Miami. Nice weather and a nice person we've got here on the podcast right now. Dan Ahrens from AdvisorShares, portfolio manager. What's going on, brother?
Nice to be here.
I know, huh?
Florida's beautiful.
Last time we were here at Benzinga was February of 2020, right at the end, and I think it was a week or two before a little thing called COVID unveiled across the world. But lots changed.
Crazy timing.
But has the cannabis industry changed since then?
You know, it's funny. It's changed in lots of ways. We see companies expanding state by state. We see lots of, support in the United States for federal reform.
Yeah.
And we're all expecting the federal reform that we were promised 15 or 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And we've seen a 15-month brutal drawdown in cannabis stocks. And that's even on both sides of the border.
Are you surprised it's dropped this much? And I don't want to say you are.
Anybody that doesn't say they're surprised that it's been this long and this rough is lying to you. I mean, no, you can't expect that. On the other hand, if you've been in this game for a while, if you've been an investor, and I wrote about this in my book.
Yeah.
I showed, some historical things. You have to be prepared for 15-month, year and a half, 2-year drawdowns. And drawdowns in a new area like cannabis.
Yes.
A bunch of OTC traded stocks.
I know.
That drawdown really can be 50 or 60%. So surprised? Yeah, surprised as hell, because we were always bullish on these things when we were expecting federal reform. But does this come with the territory? Absolutely.
We talk about this each week in our Trade to Black podcast. We still have probably the best days that we've ever experienced in this industry ahead of us, do you not think? But the big question is, and no one really understands the answer, do you think a lot of these companies do want federal legalization? Or is it more important just the safe banking is the most important thing right now? Because I hear mixed things. Like a lot of these companies, especially the big ones, it's like they want to soak up the competition, and federal legalization really doesn't mean all that much to them. And I don't think it does to a lot of investors, but safe banking, I don't even know how to ask the question. Like, where is it? What's going to happen? Because I know you don't know the answers, but how do you prep for that, knowing that you're invested heavily, obviously, in the space?
Well, there's so much talk about legalization and what that means. And I always remind people, no, I'm not talking about legalization. I'm talking about federal reform.
Right.
No one that really knows this space thinks we're going to have a full federal legalization where you can walk into Walmart and buy pot. No, that's not happening. It never was. And
aisle 4. Yeah, right.
So we have all these bills. Everybody's learned a lot about politics and politicians.
Yes.
And they play politicians' games.
Yeah.
And they're harming lots of people in the meantime.
Yeah.
But it's still going to come out the other end at some point. And most people that are connected to the space feel it's going to be a compromise that everybody can save face and pat themselves on the back for. That's going to be some kind of safe banking plus, and the plus isn't necessarily in the same bill,
right?
But it coincides, and that means some social justice reform so that some of our senators can save face and approve safe banking.
Yeah.
Now, do the MSOs really, really want interstate commerce and bigger legalization? Yeah, I don't know, and I don't even care.
Yeah.
But I know it's going to come as a domino effect. It's going to come piecemeal. I think we're going to get safe banking still this year.
You do?
But I don't like betting on this stuff because we've already been burnt so much.
What makes you think that?
So much support, so much talk behind the scenes. When I hear things like what Weldon's doing behind the scenes, that I hear that, Schumer is more agreeable to settle on safe. I hear that Booker behind the scenes might be, satisfied settling on safe. Again, combined with these with these social justice reforms.
Kyle Kazan was on with us actually recently, and he had an opinion, former corrections officer who's well into the space. He was actually telling us some pretty eye-opening stories about, marijuana possession with some people that are spending a life sentence or close to 50 years, which is crazy. So you can understand the complications that are behind the scenes that is well beyond just, investing dollars. But one thing he was saying is that Chuck Schumer obviously is a very polished politician.
Yeah, a little too polished.
Yeah, and 100% of the time when a bill is presented on his desk, that it most likely is not going to go ahead, and he knows this. So based off of that feedback, what do you, you think safe banking will pass this year? So do you think differently of that?
I think we're going to get it just because I hear what's going on behind the scenes with compromise and support from both sides of the aisle. Mm-hmm. Enough support for that. But Schumer wouldn't let it go forward because it wasn't his baby and because he had his full, draft bill for, a much larger legalization-ish type of bill. But we got to come back to the fact that, like you said, there's people in jail, life sentences for minor possession.
It's crazy.
70 to 80 to 90% of the U.S. public is against that.
100%.
We hear about robberies of dispensaries.
Yeah.
We hear about murders, armed robbery murders in dispensaries. And then we always have these new states coming online. New Jersey, New York. So, are they going to grant a dispensary license with social justice aspects to somebody that can't get a damn bank loan to manage their business?
Wow, I never looked at it that way.
It's really, really affecting some of the people they want to grant licenses to. If they can't do banking, they can't make it in a business. So there is such a contradiction out there. But again, politicians can play a lot of politicians' games for an unlimited period of time. We don't know what that period of time is. But at some point, they at least got to fix the damn banking aspects of this business.
I've heard feedback, we've read about it too, that, if they pass safe banking, Cory Booker looks at it as Wall Street just gets richer and richer and wins.
That's a line. That's bullshit.
Yeah. Why do you when he says that and you say that's bullshit, what do you mean by that?
It's posturing because he does not want to approve safe banking without certain social justice aspects that they want to have attached to it. And we hear those negotiations are all still going on behind the scenes where Cory Booker can approve safe banking but get up on a podium and say here's what I did. And it's not safe banking on its own. Because people like you and I know that safe banking isn't just about Wall Street banking. No, it's about
the dispensary
owners being able to get a loan or being able to not get robbed for their cash.
Or pay a 55% 280E tax code rate, which is it's in and around that, but that's insane, right?
That's a beautiful point that you bring up, because some people say, well, I don't care about safe banking. All I care about is uplifting because I'm just an investor.
Right.
Well, one happens without the other. Safe banking is about safe banking. So it's about getting loans for dispensary owners. It's about dispensaries being able to have bank accounts.
Of course.
But it's also major bank wirehouses being able to handle these stocks. Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, BNY Mellon is my custody bank. They have formal cannabis policies. With safe banking, those formal cannabis policies go away and all those custody issues go away. They can now handle the stock of these companies.
Explain what formal cannabis policy means to a lot of the people. And I know a lot of us know it, but there's still a lot of people who are trying to understand that.
Well, my company's worked with Bank of New York Mellon, who's a great company, one of the biggest custody banks in the world. we've been, customers and partners of theirs for 12, 13 years. So when we wanted to launch a cannabis fund, we started talking to them. And it was going to the very highest levels of the company and their risk departments and their lawyers. But
Close the door on it.
we also, sort of, but we were almost the guinea pigs for their cannabis policy.
Yeah.
We discussed it all with them. We were very upfront with them, and they were very wanting to help.
Yeah.
We also filed for a fund. The SEC asked us to get a written legal opinion. So the legal opinion from the SEC asked for, the New York Stock Exchange we were talking to up front before we launched this. No surprises here. Everybody kind of agreed at that time, you can invest in companies directly that are listed on the NASDAQ,
Yep.
listed on the New York Stock Exchange, even listed on the Toronto and the Toronto Venture, because they want to mirror their policies. But those are the only companies that, at that time, BNY Mellon and Merrill Lynch and Credit Suisse and a bunch of others, they all kind of mirrored each other. Those are the companies you can invest in directly. That's why we went the total return swap route, which Bank of New York Mellon helped us with,
Right.
which the New York Stock Exchange lawyers did rule filings to help us with. Everybody was involved. It's a very good solution. The SEC was happy with it. But those big banks still don't want to custody or let you trade Green Thumb, Curaleaf, Trulieve, all those others.
Which are the biggest movers, revenue generators out there. Isn't it crazy when you get positive U.S. news and Tilray? And the Canadian companies move the most?
That'll always bother us.
Yeah.
The funny thing out there is I see people on Twitter and everybody's talking about safe banking does this, safe banking does that. No, I actually worked with the New York Stock Exchange on a fund that was going to invest in certain stocks and then use total return swaps for the other stocks.
Okay.
One of the biggest banks in the world, Bank of New York Mellon, we negotiated all this with them. So I hate to say I'm a little bit of an expert in how safe banking impacts all this stuff.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to say is, some people say, well, safe banking doesn't allow for uplisting. Well, of course it doesn't. It has New York Stock Exchange policies have no place in a banking bill.
Right.
But once we get safe banking, it will
Wheels in
open
motion.
the doors,
Right.
wheels in motion, that the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ
And even before,
can now choose to list those stocks.
But can you imagine what that'll be like that day? Even before the announcements with the New York Stock Exchange and the rush that goes into this industry, if you had to predict what the daily volume would be when we get into the big board exchanges, like the Curaleafs, Trulieves, we're probably looking at 500 million trade in volume on a daily basis off the beginning, if not more, don't you think?
Yeah, we regularly look at the trading volume on Green Thumb and Curaleaf and Trulieve. I'm looking at these all the time because I own a lot of them.
Right.
The volume is just so paltry. It's offensive.
I know.
Compared to Canopy and Tilray. And Canopy and Tilray have cooled off an awful lot from where they were trading a couple years ago. No, these U.S. stocks, they have all the potential in the world.
Yeah.
When money comes in, institutional money, trading volume, everything else can truly explode in a good way. But I want people to know that, no, safe banking doesn't call for uplisting. Safe banking doesn't call for them to fix the 280E tax problem.
Right.
But both of those things can very easily follow safe banking.
Do you not think a lot of these companies have backdoor deals already in place once that does happen with safe banking? Those conversations have already been had. Of course they are.
Of course those conversations are all taking place.
Yes.
I wouldn't call it a backdoor deal. I don't really know what's in place. But no, all those companies are preparing for this.
Of course.
But safe banking is banking. It opens the door for the New York Stock Exchange to then allow uplisting. You don't need senators and House representatives to approve anything there.
Yeah.
It's the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
They have their rules.
Do you think they'll move fast?
Yeah, I think they'll move very fast.
Yeah.
And because I've had those conversations with the New York Stock Exchange and I have those conversations with the bank. And when
they're just as eager, would you find?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. They bent over backwards to help us list our fund. They want to list these companies. The only thing they won't do is list a company that's contrary to federal law.
Which means?
Right now, Green Thumb is contrary to federal law.
Why?
because it's a DEA Schedule 1 drug, marijuana they're handling, because it's legal in 30-something states, but it's not federally legal in any way. So as soon as they fix safe banking, they also have to say this is not federally illegal.
Of course.
Because we're allowing banking. They haven't legalized it. They haven't said you can sell marijuana nationwide. They haven't even fixed 280E yet. But they've now said we're going to allow these cannabis companies that are handling a DEA Schedule 1 drug, theoretically, which they should also deschedule it, but it's not automatically in safe banking. It's now not federally illegal to bank it. So the exchanges can now list it.
Yeah.
And then they should be able to fix 280E. Again, it doesn't take senators to fix 280E.
Think of their EBITDA overnight without even changing anything.
It's huge.
Wanted to ask you one last thing was thoughts on the latest financials this quarter. I know there was a shortage of flower supply for a lot of these companies, which is why the revenue was down a little bit. But will that problem be fixed in a hurry? And do you sense that, not to sit here, it's crazy when I think of like, oh, revenue was down as far as projections were concerned, but yet here we are generating a couple $100 million. Remember the days when it was like 20, 30, and then we'll get to 150 to 200 million at some point, and here we are saying projections are low. But needless to say, the industry is extremely healthy. But
well, as a investor and a long-term investor, I kind of snicker at that because people are nitpicking a little bit about supply, and if some company came in a little bit light versus projections for this state or that state, we're down freaking 60% in the last 15 months.
Yeah, I know.
So
it doesn't make sense, does it?
And year-over-year revenue is still
way high.
Yes.
So
why the hell are we worried about coming in a couple cents light on this quarter versus that quarter when we're down 55, 60% in the last 15 months? And where do we think these prices and these companies are going to be 15 months from now?
Yeah.
No, I could care less. I sometimes know I might be pissing people off when I'm still bullish right now. But at these prices,
I just think
at all-time lows,
I know.
I'm bullish as hell. I have to be with long-term focus.
Investor fatigue, legislation fatigue is 100%. But, you know, what I take away from here is that you think safe banking does get passed at some point this calendar year, which is...
Yeah, I'm sick of betting on it, though. And, you know, I saw somebody express a theory the other day that, let's say things turn bad. Let's say that, you know, Schumer plays games all the way until he's not even the speaker of the, or not even, you know, the Republicans get control. Let's say they get control of the House and the Senate. And then they decide to table all this.
Do you think they will?
No, I think there's too much support. I know we've had, you know, Republican-led bills. So no, I don't think. But I'm giving you a worst-case scenario. What's that do to these cannabis companies and their prices? They're already in a 15-month drawdown. They're already down 60%. But what's happening to overall revenues? What's happening in New Jersey? What's happening in New York?
Yeah.
I think to get all this shit behind them, to get the narrative off of politics, can we see green times again?
Well, one thing's for sure. Investors obviously are hoping that. I am too. But, you know, at the end of the day, I know we saw great green pastures in Canada 5-6 years ago, but I still think that the best days for this industry we still have not experienced yet. I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah, we're still in the very early stages of this industry. Everybody has to remember that.
Yeah.
No, it's not past. It's not happened yet. I mean, look at alcohol. Look at tobacco. Look at any other CPG company. Sold
out conference here at Benzinga. They got 1,600 tickets sold with some big name speakers that are going on this week. So it goes to show that this interest level, even though there's frustration right now, it's still... I even look at the content that we produce. Cannabis, still number one. Still number one.
Yeah, I think we have better times in front of us.
Yeah, I agree.
It's been on some brutal, hard lessons for investors, but you better have a real long-term focus, be able to ride out some bad times. these stocks trade kind of ridiculously
Yeah.
because of the OTC and because of politicians and the narrative being so much on politicians. But that's why I thought that theory of a worst case scenario, maybe these stocks would act a little more normal-ish again if we can get rid of the whole politician narrative.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're trading on.
100%. Dan, appreciate your time.
Good talking to you as always.
Let's go do some deep sea fishing. How's that sound?
Okay.
All right.